Welcome to the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit. I am Marcy Little, your host, and with me today is Vennie Kocsis, or if you want to say it the Hungarian way, Kocsis. Vennie, so great to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
Oh, okay, awesome. I'm going to tell you more about how cool Vennie is in just a second. But first, let's just take a moment to get present and into our bodies. If you would like, it's an invitation, so you don't have to. But here we are. I like to sort of move a little bit and just let the energy begin to trickle down, trickle down, trickle down. And I also love to feel my feet in contact with the earth. That's a very grounding thing to do, particularly as we explore these topics, which have a lot of impact in them. So yeah, feel those feet. Maybe close your eyes if you'd like, or keep them open. Notice where your body is in space, that you have a body, that you may be sitting on something and what it feels like to be sitting on something. And then you can just check in and notice what your breath is doing right this moment, without judgment or trying to change it or control it in any way. You may want to make a sound as you exhale. Just letting anything go you need to get here. And feel free to open your eyes when you're ready. Take your time. Vennie and I are here for you. Okay. Vennie, I'm going to read about you now.
Okay.
He is a really cool person, and you're about to understand why. Vennie Kocsis is a child trauma survivor and advocate for supportive, paced healing. Her memoir, Cult Child, details her time growing up in Sam Fife's Move of God cult in the 70s and 80s. Vennie thrives through writing, creating art, and supporting others. She understands the often difficult and multi-layered journey from victim to surviving and finally to thriving. Vennie is the founder of a free monthly newsletter for the thriving. Sign up at forthethriving.com, which you can also find below. Follow Vennie at her personal website, venniekocsis.com, which is also below. And Vennie has recently launched a support forum for those taking new steps into healing, who need to take things slow and receive loving support. To join, visit thethrivingnook.com, and you'll find that also below. Vennie, welcome.
Thank you so much.
So Vennie, in addition to
that was an awesome introduction.
Oh yeah? Did it feel good?
Yeah, thank you. It did. Thank you.
I'm so glad. Well, as I was interviewing Anna Forrest, I don't know if you know who that is, at Forrest Yoga, recently for the series, and she said, this is a heroine's journey. And when I read this and I share this about you, I'm like, here's another heroine, who's just, got the courage and has really gotten to this incredible place. Yeah. So is there anything else?
So much. Yeah.
You're welcome. Anything else you want to tell the viewers about you that I didn't just say?
You completely covered it. So, that's my portal with my website. You can find me. Yeah. So that introduction was amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. But my website, the venniekocsis.com, that's my hub. So if you go there, you'll find all the little social medias and
all the good stuff. That'll also be here on the page.
I also want to say real quick, the reason why I built the Thriving Nook is because, I was on the internet when the internet began, and we had forums, and we didn't have forced content in our face. And it really does tag your emotions and we need a safe place to go where we can choose where we browse, choose where we go, choose what conversations we participate in, and not have non-consensual information constantly coming into our face. So I think that is so important for survivors when they're healing, to be extra careful what you allow into your energy field.
Yeah, cool. I love that you just said that and put it that way. And I hadn't really thought about that, and it's so true. And that's the thriving nook. That's part of the impetus for the
Yes,
nook. Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, I agree. It's like a wonderful way to create a safe, sacred boundary
yes,
space. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, totally. Cool. So I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone that I interview, which is, why did you want to be part of the Healing Sexual Trauma Summit?
I'm a survivor. I started being sexually abused, raped at 3 years old until the age of 14. So this is my passion, is to talk about it, erase the stigma where people go, we've got to stop that. You have to look at it. I usually tell people, if you're going, you're one of the good ones. You're supposed to feel that way.
Yeah,
You're not, because it's ugly.
yeah.
So that's why I wanted to be here, to just talk about my journey and some things that have helped me, and maybe they'll resonate with someone else.
So wonderful. Okay, thanks, and thank you for sharing that. And I had exactly that. It's like I can't hear something like that and not just want to put my hand on my heart
Yes,
and you know, yeah. So, and I love that you said that that's the right response.
it is. Yes.
Yeah,
The wrong response, though, is to continue with that and go away from it and say, but I think that too can be something to be looked at, as like maybe that person has some things they need to deal with. It's triggering them.
right.
So I understand that response and kind of these multiple perspectives.
Yeah, right. It takes a deep kind of understanding of the multi-level layeredness, and it's like it requires a deep compassion to understand all the ways that people hear this this truth.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Cool. All right. Well, in our talk today, we're going to be following the strands. What are strands?
Well, strands are what in our childhood that happened to us connects us to our current triggers, our current realities, how we see the world, how we process triggers. There's always a strand if you follow it. And that's been a big, big part of my process, is following those strands and then
And
doing the cut off. Yes,
we're going to really, really get into that. So you make a distinction between physical and mental triggers.
I do.
Yeah.
I find it really important for me to sit with the trigger. So each of us experiences triggers in different ways, but there's this overlapping symptoms. So I started taking the time to sit with my body and really define what symptoms were physical and what were mental, because they both require different self-care. So my personal definition of a trigger is, it's a message from the body and the mind. It's like getting bad news. It's saying, hey, we have something to tell you, and it's probably going to hurt a little bit. And that's why we get anxious. And so there's this self-awareness that has to be developed, and it can be developed softly. And part of that was really sitting with triggers and mastering that recognition. So physical triggers for me are rapid heartbeat, feeling like I can't catch my breath, a headache will come on, sweating, a feeling of panic inside my body, doom and fear, nausea, a feeling that we might pass out because we're holding our breath. Um, and when I feel a trigger coming on, like say I'm in public, the absolute first thing I do is focus on my breathing, because that is what brings us into, back into reality. And then the mental side of it is hypervigilance, creating scenarios. I'll give you an example. Once I was at Best Buy and this gentleman came in. I lived around a lot of military bases. He had on all camos and this big backpack, and I froze. And I watched him the whole time because in my mind, he was a shooter. I profiled him based on stuff I'd seen. And then he bought his items and walked out. And I thought to myself, gosh, that's so silly. But in that moment, it's really real to you. So that dissociation begins where things sound hollow. The walls feel like they're separating or closing in. It's flying by in seconds. And so in this stage, I've learned to stop and acknowledge to my own body, I hear you, I feel you, I get it, we're triggered right now.
I love that. I love that so much. And I try to practice that myself. I try to help others to practice that. And it's the sacred pause moment. And it's like that moment between acting or reacting in a way that's going to cause a lot of crappiness that you have to go back and clean up, or turning around. I actually write about this, Pema Chodron. You know Pema Chodron?
Oh, yes.
You've
She's
got Pema
amazing.
Chodron, right? And she's like, it's like you've just gotten struck in the heart with an arrow and you're going to try to attack the person who's sent this arrow into your heart, as opposed to turning around and dealing with the arrow that's in your heart. So the way you just described that is that turning in backward towards the body and the self and being like, just like you said, I see you, you're communicating with me right now and we're triggered. And okay, so I'm going to attend to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the just breathing, because oftentimes survivors can be given this list, do this, do that, and you're like, and that just makes the panic a little more. And I can remember times that before I understood triggers and what they were, in my mind, I'm having a heart attack. It gets very catastrophic. So just breathing. That's it. Right now, we're just going to breathe, and we're going to get through this line at the grocery store if lines are triggering for you. And then we'll sit with this trigger later in the car, at home. Yes.
Right. So first thing, notice. Second thing, pay attention to the breath as a way of just getting back into here and now.
Absolutely.
And then making a deal with yourself that, okay, maybe I'm not going to deal with this trigger right this second because I'm in line or wherever I am, but I will. I'm coming back to you, trigger.
Yes, I got the message. Thank you for giving me the news. It's just like, anytime we receive bad news, there's this moment of shock, and then we have to process it. So I look at it like that. I've got the bad news. I'm not going to cry in the grocery store about it, because that's not a comfortable space for me. So we'll process it when we get home.
Yeah, cool. Love it. All right. So we're talking about strands. We just talked about, so physical versus mental. So your distinction is the physical is that, and all of those kinds of symptoms that you talked about.
Sweating.
Yeah. Yeah. And the feeling of the walls closing in, or just like heartbeat and da, 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 da. And then the mental piece is how you start to catastrophize, and it goes real fast into the worst case scenario. Yeah. Right.
Fight or flight, protect myself.
Okay, very cool. All right, so where in our childhood trauma does the strand connect, and how do we find and follow it?
Okay, so now we know what triggers are. They're this current realization of past trauma. So it was important for me to connect that. And so I'll give you an example of I think that's the best way to do it, is just to tell you a little story. So I was at a store that I went to all the time, all male employees, always went there, always felt comfortable for years. But on one particular day, I went in, I did my business. There was always a little small talk, we would talk about different things. And I was talking with the gentleman who helped me. And the other two male workers were sitting on the couch, just on their phones. And he came around the counter and he started engaging me face to face. And the other two stood up and came over to join the conversation. Immediately, I was surrounded by males. My heart began to race. I'm about to be raped. That's where my mind went. So I'm very high functioning, meaning that I present well. And I said, oh my gosh, you guys, I got to get out of here. I forgot I have an appointment. By the time I got to my vehicle, I had that floaty feeling in my head. I'm like, okay, this is definitely like, so I grabbed my notepad because I do keep, even if you use your phone, it doesn't have to be full sentences. I just wrote the store name, surrounded by guys, got really triggered, has never happened before, figured this out. I was having extreme rapid heart rate. My palms were sweating. I was like trying to catch my breath. So I sat in my vehicle, wrote it down, did some breathing before I drove. And then later on that night, I sat with it and I thought, I'm going to name all the times in my childhood that I was just surrounded by people. When we were sick, because I was faith healed, they surrounded us and laid hands on us and prayed very loudly. It was extremely invasive. Exorcisms, surrounded by adults, completely no control. You could have hands laid on you in a church service on the cult where everybody was just like a mass. So there were all of these ways that I had felt helpless, not just with males, with females too, but there were some teenage boys who trapped me in certain situations on the cult compound. Once I was like, wow, that's it. That is exactly why you called into an elders meeting, you're surrounded. You're never, ever safe in these moments as a child when I was surrounded. And for some reason that day, my body was like, hey, let's deal with this. And that's how I look at triggers, that it's kind of a gift. It's like the body's going, I believe in you. You're strong enough to handle this. So I'm going to give it to you so you see it, and then we'll process it. And so that's an example of connecting those strands. Why did this trigger me? Okay, because I was surrounded. So breaking down the current trigger and then taking those little pieces and matching them up with what you can remember, because a lot of us survivors have very large gaps. But there's usually enough to remember that we can connect that strand.
Yeah, I love your example. Thank you so much. It makes it so relatable for me and for the listeners. It's like, oh yeah, that's exactly the practice. It's like, okay, so trigger happens. In this case, you got yourself out and away from it.
Yes.
You gave yourself the distance that your body needed. You took down some notes so that you would remember to come back to it later. Then you took great care of yourself by doing your practice of coming into the breath, because you weren't going to be able to drive in that state.
Right. And yes, it's good to get your mind clear before you hit the road.
Yeah, you don't want to be like caught up in a memory, and
right,
for sure. So doing the breath until you can calm the nervous system enough to be present again in the body in this moment. Then later, the strands. I love this. Like how, how is this familiar? When did I experience this? And then a flood of different scenarios arose. And maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't, right? And there it is. And you're able to make connections.
Yes.
That ultimately, in my experience also, Vennie, allow this to be metabolized, processed, and then the next time the reaction is less. Is that your experience too?
Absolutely. It's almost like once I piece it together, I go, oh, and now I have an answer. A lot of times that lays that question to rest. So yeah, that's definitely, or I'm more present in that feeling if I'm in that situation, again, of feeling surrounded.
Okay.
I'm aware of why I feel that way.
Right,
And
right,
it makes it less of a trigger.
right. You have a little bit more space and more options in
Mhm.
terms of how you respond or experience it or whatever. Yeah, it gives you more freedom.
Mhm.
You're not
It really
ruled
does.
by the immediate trigger that in fact happens so quickly we don't actually have a choice.
Mhm. And it throws us into the unknown. And the unknown is like so prevalent. I don't think I've ever talked to a sex abuse survivor that wasn't in the unknown in some kind of way. And so the unknown is difficult for us if we don't know why we're triggered. There's pictures. I mean, I'll just be very open. For a long time, because I was sexually abused also by a female, and she was quite brutal. I couldn't look at pictures of a vagina. It was uncomfortable for me. I didn't like it. It made me feel like this
Yeah.
until I stranded it like, oh, some of the things that happen, of course I would feel that way. But
Mhm.
again, once then, now I can see a woman's body and go, wow, how beautiful, how unique. Um, I just needed that. The body just needs to give it to you and get that answer. And then you can lay it to rest. Even rituals. Sometimes I burn. I'll write something on a piece of paper and I burn it, you know. I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but that's important, I think, whatever's comfortable for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, right. With the object being to eventually take away the power of the memory. Yeah. Or the power of what happened to you when you couldn't make it not be happening to you. And
Hmm.
now you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. All right, awesome. Okay, yeah, you mentioned burning. I think that's one of the techniques to cutting a strand. So let's go
Yeah.
right into the strand cutting.
Okay. So once we make that connection between our current reality and what in our childhood has triggered us, we get to create a strand cutting process. Connecting the strand for me is the biggest part of the work. Recognizing it and connecting it. Once that happens, then I can figure out, how do I want to cut this strand. I'll tell you, and I don't mean this flippantly, it really is just memories. I have to tell myself that it's just memories. And when I minimize that, like don't give it so much power, like my memories versus they're just memory. That's a powerful thing for me to say. I've spent endless times in meditation reminding myself your triggers are just memories. And so I do a lot of self talk. You're okay. This is your body. You're in control of how you process this. Writing Cold Child was extremely difficult. I'm happy I took the journey. It's not easy to write trauma. So I think it's important that people find whatever outlet, because it's deep emotional layers that peel away during this middle phase of connecting the strands. If you made a wall map, kind of like the cops do when they're looking for a criminal, you put the trigger here and then the strings with the pins, like, oh, it connects to this that happened to me and this that happened to me. And it's in that phase of cutting where I think that's where that self-care and self-reliance really come in. Like I said before, triggers can be connected by more than one strand. Um, in the story that, I told you earlier, being surrounded, like there's exorcisms, faith healing, sex abuse, consequences, all these different, I could have all kinds of different strands. So I've found a few ways that I cut strands. I'd say if it's a really heavy emotion, that's when I like to burn. And it's so simple for me. I write it on a piece of paper. I go outside and I burn it and I just send it into the atmosphere with love. Sam Fife, you have no power over me anymore. Go. So I'll do that. I let the ashes float away. I thank my body. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for letting it go. It's body awareness to me is a conversation. that I have with my DNA. You know, the more that I process, the more my DNA talks to me. DNA that, you know, the pieces of me that were quiet when the trauma was in the forefront. Art is another way that I'll dump. I love collage art. It allows you to really get layered in. But, you know, people will say, I remember I had this friend, she was a yoga instructor, and I bought her a little canvas and 3 colors of paint and a paintbrush. And she was like, I can't paint. She made the most beautiful painting with those 3 colors, a sunset and trees. And I was like, see, there's so many things that there's no rules to it. Throw it down, throw the paint, whatever it looked like to you. Pouring, acrylics, all that process allows your body to just get it out. I handwrite. I find handwriting to be more important when you're processing a trigger. Typing is very quick. So how does the mind connect with the nervous system, the physiology of it coming out of the hand onto the paper? So I think I don't think I really feel strongly when you're processing a trigger that handwriting on a piece of paper is super important. And I have journals going all the way back to the 90s, stuff that I don't go back and read. And, you know, it's not that I force myself not to go back and read it, but I don't have a draw to it because it's gone. It's there on the paper. So, you know, in writing my memoirs of Cold Child, like I have a painting that I haven't finished since 2012. And it's a memory that I had that I write about in my book, where I dissociated from a really violent exorcism. And I was in a beautiful field of flowers. It was very much on the verge of dissociation into having a near-death experience as a child. And sometimes I paint on it, and sometimes I just can't touch it. And that's okay. You can flow. Sometimes it takes a while to cut a strand. It's all about being kind to yourself. Blog it, write it, do what you got to do. Just get it out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so I think that last piece too feels really important to me. Or a couple of things, you know, that it's like we're each going to have our own way to cut a strand, and we kind of got to figure out what that is. For some people, it might be, you know, like just really feeling like they're cutting something.
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
something you write off, and I'm going to do it again as soon as you come up. I'm just going to snip, and I'm going to snip. I love the ritual of burning something and seeing the ashes float out, and then all the creative stuff. And you're obviously a very creative person, and but also, you know, for people who don't think they're creative, like your story with your friend there, just like, yeah, so that just get it out some way, and then let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those people who don't think they're creative, they feel that way because no one told them they could. They were beat down as children. You know, even me, I wasn't allowed to do art. I wasn't allowed to have journals. These were, you know, whenever any of that was seen, it was ceased. So you kind of have to look at it as your rite of passage, that you get to play with art and you get to play with writing, and whatever your style is, it's okay. Nobody gets to judge you.
Right. And it's good to let our own judgment of ourselves go so that we can do it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. I also like the fact that it's, you know, you may need to do it more than once, like the example of your painting. Like this is a cord cutting process. Sometimes there's a one cord and it's like you're just ready and it's assimilated and you're ready to let it go. And other times it's like I've let a bunch go and there's more to let go and I'll come back.
Yes.
We go again.
Yeah. And that memory, you know, I was being sexually abused and that memory is obviously so violent that it caused me to go to another dimension completely. So I think we have to, again, give ourselves permission to understand that no matter how fast someone thinks we should heal, it does sometimes take years to process something, especially sex abuse. It's so devastating, so devastating. It is the hardest thing, and it creates so many byproducts, addiction, food addiction, another thing that I battled with for a very long time. And yeah, again, I've had to learn to pace, not overdo it, and be gentle with myself and not let anybody put expectations on me, and also not to project triggers into behavior, which we all can sometimes do. That's a process for me of deep self-awareness.
Yes. Can you say more what you mean by triggers into behavior? Say.
Okay, we'll take the story with the males. If that trigger had turned into behavior, I might have yelled at them and said, "Why are you surrounding me? You guys need to back up." And they would not have understood. They would have been like, "Why is she acting that way?" That's me letting a trigger dictate my behavior.
Yeah.
And sometimes we do that. And, I've done it and then been like, "Oh my God, I feel so bad." Where it's just an instinct, because now we can protect ourselves. Now we get to have a voice. But I don't think that's a positive way to process it. So I had a lot of ways that projected my trauma into my behavior when I was younger, a young adult.
Yeah, so. Me too. Yep. And then I had to clean it up, and I live in an intentional community. So there were so many opportunities for me to have my triggers mirrored back to me.
Yes.
And be like, wow, this isn't going to be sustainable living in community with other people. I can't fly off the handle. I can't, it's scary. It's scary to others.
Yeah, it is. And they don't understand it. The times that I've, gone off the handle like that, I do realize it in retrospect, and then, always apologize if someone was affected, that I am so sorry I behaved that way. It was ugly and mean, and this is why, and I shouldn't have done that. And that matters to the other person or the people that felt the projection.
Yeah.
Kind of calms them, saying, she's just crazy and out of control. Now they have a little bit more understanding, and okay, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that, and it helps us not do it as much.
Yeah. And also that piece that you mentioned about being really gentle with ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we're going to blow it and sometimes we're going to make it. And hopefully that, we're moving in the direction of, having more self-awareness, like you said, to be able to manage it. Yeah, more and more self-awareness. So Vennie, I'm loving talking to you so much. I feel just like a sister on this path together. And before we end, I'm wondering if there's any final wisdom that you feel is important for us to take away from our shared time.
Well, one of my favorite sayings, and I have it tattooed, is I let go of that which has served its purpose and accept the new without fear. I say that to myself every day because we also, as survivors, can ruminate and ruminate and ruminate instead of releasing. So those would be my final words, like whatever you can let go, like lighten the load. Even as a parent, I had failures as a parent, being able to sit down with my sons and own that. Hey, I get it. No excuses. Give me back that pain. I'm going to carry it. That is so healing. All of that process is so healing. And it's okay to own your steps. It's okay. People are not going to judge you as much as you think they are.
Can you read your tattoo just one more time for us?
I let go of that which has served its purpose and accept the new without fear.
Love that. Yes.
Thank you so much for having me on this summit. I am so excited for all the speakers, and what an amazing group of women. It's truly an honor.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I'm just so excited. And yeah, So glad to have our viewers here. And Vennie, what a deep pleasure it's been to talk with you, learn from you, just be here with you in it all.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.